Happy fall, everyone. I'm back with another edition of my weekly Wednesday video series, Smarter Real Estate. I took a little bit of a break at the end of summer and I'm back now with more videos that are shot in one take and not edited. I'm Julie Tam, managing broker of Lynn Realty, a brokerage serving the greater Houston area and clients from around the world since 1981. You can find me on har.com, that's homes and rentals, as Yao Tam. Now, this is my Smarter Real Estate video series, which teaches you how to be a better buyer, seller, tenant, or landlord, and also I take you on some of my real estate adventures. Now, today we are talking about FSBOs, that is for sale by owner. Of course, it seems very appealing if you have a home you want to sell, that you're going to sell it yourself so that you can save on paying commission to a real estate agent. Well, let me go ahead and unmask some of the myths involved in all of this, and I'll take you back a number of years, more than 10 years ago, when I was living in Louisville, Kentucky with my husband, and we had bought a house there. Now, I was not a real estate agent at that time. I had not taken my real estate courses, but I had grown up in the business because, you know, my mom founded our company, Lynn Realty, back in 1981, and as a kid, I was doing office work for her and running errands with her, and basically following her to appointments and doing things that I could do and that I was allowed to do without a real estate license. So I already had some exposure and I knew the value of a real estate agent, but I want to tell you my personal story to prove this point. And that is, when we went to sell our home, we used a real estate agent. We knew that much was a good idea, but we still had certain thoughts, and I'll tell you for me specifically, and my husband agrees as well, is that we thought that our home was worth more than it could actually be sold for. Our real estate agent sent us comps. Comps are comparable properties in the neighborhood and the surrounding area that buyers would be looking at in order to compare whether homes that are currently on the market, so direct competition to our home, and also homes that have sold within the last 6 months. So those are the comparables. And so, you know, we were thinking that our home was worth more, and of course we had so much pride in our home. We loved our home. We had an emotional attachment to our home. We had also put in some work in it. You know, the home was already in pretty good shape, but it needed some small repairs. We put in new blinds, we painted the house, you know, put in some new landscaping, and just did some things that we thought would bring more value to the home. But our real estate agent opened our eyes and gave us a little bit of an awakening, and told us that, you know what, those things are things buyers would expect. They expect the home is freshly painted and not all scuffed over, unless you're just trying to sell a home at below market price to get it sold as is and let the buyer take care of that, okay? But in this case, when you're marketing a home that you're trying to appeal to a potential buyer that they can see themselves moving in pretty much right away and not having to do a bunch of work to the home, then this is the price that we were trying to go for, a home that is ready to move into. And so while we thought that getting all this work done would add extra value and therefore a higher price to our home, that really was not the case. And so that just shows you that, you know, when you're not licensed and you don't see those details, then you don't realize what is really the case. All right, so let me give you some real hard and fast numbers. I've got my reporter's notebook here. I was a TV news anchor and reporter for over 10 years before switching to real estate about 8 years ago, and that was the job that I was doing at television when we were trying to sell our home. Now, what happened was the prices had not come up enough when it came time to sell our home. We hadn't been in it for long enough. And so the offers we were getting, and of course the list price, was just not what we were looking for. And of course the offers were even below the list price. So ultimately we decided not to sell, but to hang on to the property and keep it as an investment. So we've been renting it out ever since, and that's been a pretty good experience, and decently lucrative as well so far. But I want to share with you a number here. This is very telling, from the National Association of Realtors, NAR. So looking at the entire country, last year, 2018, the median sales price of a home in the United States sold by a real estate agent was $264,900. So remember that number, $264,900. That's with a real estate agent. Without a real estate agent, the median sales price of a home was only $200,000. So that's $64,900 less than a home sold with a real estate agent. That's a 25% decline. From $264,900 to $200,000 is about 25% lower. in terms of this home sales price. That's a significant number, okay? I'm not saying that in every case this is the situation, but this is the median. So you're getting, you know, a pretty well-rounded perspective here. And what that tells you is when a seller is trying to save that, you know, roughly usually 6% commission that they're going to pay to their agent, they're really losing 25% instead. So if you think about those numbers, it just doesn't really compute. And just a quick explanation of that commission. Of course, there is no fixed or standard commission across the board, but most typically we see 6%. And that 6% gets split between the seller's agent and the buyer's agent. So 3% to each side typically. But there are cases in properties in different markets that the commission could be higher or lower. All right, so, and the reason why homes are selling for less when sellers in fact think that they should be pricing their home for more is because what happens is sellers typically will price their home higher than what it should be priced at. So then the home sits on the market. Buyers, of course, don't want to go for that home. When we were looking for our home, in fact, in Louisville, we looked at a for sale by owner and it was overpriced and we didn't even bother making an offer. I mean, I guess you could think, oh, I could put in an offer that's lower and see what they say. But in our minds, we just thought, well, they're probably just not going to take that offer, so we don't even want to bother. Okay, so see, that's how a buyer can think. And so me having that perspective in the past, not being a real estate agent, but being a buyer and then being a seller, I know what the difference is between then and now that I am a licensed, first as a real estate agent and now broker. So, you know, when you're pricing your home not competitively and it sits on the market for a while, then you get desperate and then you feel like I need to lower the price of my home to get it sold. Now the days on market have creeped up higher and higher as each week and month goes by, hopefully not more than a year, but sometimes that happens. And now you have to lower your price anyway. And then because the buyer comes along and sees that your home has been on the market for so long, something must be wrong with it, they think. So they're going to lowball you even further. And you get desperate at that point because you need to get out of your house for whatever reason. So then you just end up selling it at a loss. Or like we've seen with the median, 25% less than what you could have sold it at with a real estate agent. So these are numbers, you know, I'm not trying to say, hey, you should definitely use a real estate agent. Well, I am saying that, but you can make your own choice. Go ahead and list it as an FSBO and see how the experience goes. But you know, you may not know what you could have sold your home for had you listed it with an agent if you tried the FSBO route, the for sale by owner route. So I'm giving you some hard and fast statistics. These are facts so that you can make a wise decision. Okay, the other thing is there are a lot of complicated legal documents that go along with a real estate transaction, from the listing to the contract and all the documents associated with the contract. There are addenda that are needed, and then along the way, after you're under contract, you may need to amend that contract for whatever reason, so there can be amendments. There are further things that need to be negotiated. There are documents that are also produced by other parties, like a survey may come in, HOA or homeowners association documents, the title commitment that comes from the title company, their tax certificate, their HOA statement of account. There's a lot of things that need to be reviewed, and so are you prepared to do that? Also, a real estate agent or broker is going to give your home more marketing and exposure than what you can do on your own. You might put a for sale sign in the yard, post your home on social media, even list it on Craigslist or Zillow or whatnot, any of these sites that consumers have access to, but we realtors can do that too. But plus, we are armed with the most powerful tool, which is the MLS, Multiple Listing Service. In the Houston area, that website is HAR.com. That stands for Houston Association of Realtors, but also Homes and Rentals is how it's being marketed as. And so that is actually the #1 website in the greater Houston area for people to search for homes. Whatever city you might be living in as you're watching this video, you probably have your own website like that. That's part of the MLS. Okay, the other thing is qualifying prospective buyers. That can be pretty tricky, okay? So as a seller, you're gonna get really excited probably when you receive that first offer, or if you receive multiple offers. You're going to look at that and immediately see dollar signs, right? Whatever price they offer you, if it's a great price, you're just going to be focused and zoned in on that. But unfortunately, that's where the pitfalls start, because there are so many more elements to a contract, okay, than just the price. And I've discussed this in a previous video. You're talking about closing date, who pays for what, are there contingencies, what's the amount of time that the buyer is asking for to get financing approval if they're trying to get a loan to buy the home. And all these factors can actually wreak havoc on your contract, not just the price. So if you take a misstep on any of these things, it can really cause a lot of problems. Even if someone's trying to offer you, you know, like, let's say 25% more for your home, all right, than what you've listed it for, which is very unlikely, but let's just say that. But then they can't get their loan approved and therefore they don't close on the home, then what good was that? That offer was a nothing, right? You get $0 in the end. So someone like me can look at that buyer and talk to that buyer's lender, look at their pre-approval letter, and look at all the terms of the contract and be able to look at that objectively without the emotion behind it of seeing the dollar signs and knowing if this is going to be a viable offer. Is it going to work out? Are we actually going to get to closing? Because the goal is not to just get an offer accepted and under contract. The goal is to get your home sold, is to get to closing. And so we need to know all the factors involved and make sure that that can happen and not just get under contract with the first person that comes through the door or the offer that looks the best in terms of the dollar amount. All right. So along those lines about being objective and not emotional, because I'm not emotionally attached to your home. It's your home. You love your home. I can help you negotiate in a way that is going to work out best for everybody. All right. So one of the lessons in essentially negotiating 101 is that you want to be in a win-win situation. A lot of times people go in with the mindset that, you know what, I just want to win and I want the other side to lose because that means you won, right? But in a real estate deal, that really isn't the case, because you know what? The other side, they're not idiots. They might be, but usually people know when they've lost. They're not just going to think that, oh, I won too if I didn't really win. So what you want is a deal where both sides feel like they've gotten a reasonably fair situation. So the seller is getting the home sold at a reasonable price. The buyer is buying the home at a reasonable price. The seller cannot just essentially like ticket scalp, right? You know, sell the home way above price and make the buyer feel like that's a good deal for them when it's not. And there's a lot of other factors in the contract that can, you know, make a buyer or seller feel different ways as well. So you want both sides to come to the table knowing that this is a deal that works for everyone. We're all getting to closing satisfied, right? A seller is getting their home sold, a buyer is going to buy their home, and everybody's happy. And that's how you win. Both sides win. You can't just, you know, look to, for lack of a better term, screw over the other side and then think that you won, because really in the end you haven't won. All right. And then finally, roadblocks. All right. I have mentioned HGTV a bit in these videos. I like the channel myself. It's fun to watch. A lot of people I know like to watch house hunters. I personally don't really like it, and I'll tell you why. Because it just is too easy, right? The buyers approach their real estate agent. They want to see some homes. The real estate agent picks 3 homes to show them. They see those homes, they pick the home they want, they make an offer on that one home, and then boom, their offer is accepted, and they get to the closing table, and they don't even show the closing table, but you know they got to the closing table because next thing you know, the happy buyers have moved into their new home. Well, let me tell you, I worked in television and I know what goes on behind the scenes, and I know specifically about this show. And what it is that they're showing 3 homes. These 3 homes, some or all of them actually may not even be homes those buyers actually looked at before they bought their home, because they've already bought their home. Like, everything has to have already ended successfully before the show has begun. And so by the time they're shooting this show, the buyer's already moved into their new home, or at least is in the process of moving into their new home. And so really they're just finding 3 homes that generally kind of work for the show. It could just be a random home, like the buyer's friend's house or whatever, just to put on, you know, the show. And the buyer picks whatever home that they really did buy, and that way, you know, the video can be shot to show them in their new home. In some cases, I just wonder too if that is the home they really bought. Maybe it's actually just some other random home that's staged to look like they moved in. Who knows, right? I don't know about that part. But my point is it's just never that easy, right? I've had a couple of buyers in the history of my career where they looked at one home and they made the offer on that home, and that's the home they ended up buying. But that's only a couple of buyers out of the hundreds of buyers that I've helped, okay? So it really doesn't usually work out that way. In fact, in most cases, there are more complications than you even can imagine in a deal. And it's not necessarily because, you know, the client themselves has done something wrong. It could be, but it could be the agent on the other side doesn't know what they're doing. They've made some mistakes. It could be another party to the contract. It could be another third party entity that's you know, involved in the contract. So a lot of things can go wrong. And then sometimes there are just issues that just come up, you know, like the lender is delayed. There's just some practical issues with them getting the loan approved. And so you're having to push closing back. You're having to request, you know, that the seller lets you extend the time time to get financing approval, things like that. So all these things can come up. Maybe the title company dropped the ball, forgot to order the survey. Maybe the homeowners association documents are late in arriving. Maybe there's problems that are discovered on the inspection report that's to no fault of anyone, but just repairs that are needed with the house. A house deteriorates over time and things start breaking down, systems start breaking down and malfunctioning. And so now you have a negotiation going back and forth about who's going to pay for the repairs or who's going to credit the other person at closing so that they can get the repairs done after closing. So will the seller pay for the repairs or will the seller do the repairs, right? So all of these are issues that come up sometimes because of the fault of someone and sometimes not because of anyone's fault, but this is just the way life goes. And so you want someone to be able to help you deal with all these roadblocks and landmines, so to speak, on the way to closing, because ultimately the closing is the goal. So sometimes people start celebrating too early when you get under contract. Don't celebrate getting under contract. Yes, it's a small milestone you've reached. Be happy about it, but don't celebrate too hard because it's a long road to closing. It can usually be about a month, and during a month's time, a lot can happen, okay? So if I've blown your mind and you have questions, please feel free to message me or make a comment here. I hope you'll like my video and follow me on YouTube and Facebook where these videos are posted in this weekly Wednesday video series, Smarter Real Estate, and I hope to see you back here again next Wednesday. I do want to hear your ideas, feedback, anything that you like or don't like about these videos, what you'd like to see in a future video, any topics you'd like me to cover. Be creative. Looking forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks so much and have a great week. I'll see you next Wednesday.